Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Data Strategy Unraveled with me, Dwayne Browne, and
Gabrieliadi.
And today we're going to explore how CX could be used as an approach for broader business transformation. Okay. Now, we've got the right people in the room. We've got two lovely ladies, very experienced, from our partner, Zühlke. Allow me to introduce you to Melanie Marchant and Gartner. Before we jump straight into it, Melanie, you want to tell us a little bit about your role at Zühlke, and then Lee, if you don't mind following on as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And can I just say we're delighted to be here and
Lovely
really
to have
looking
you.
forward to the conversation. So Zühlke, and thank you for pronouncing it correctly. We're a company that a lot of people have not heard of, but most of you will have come in contact with us. And that could be through, so for example, the Test and Trace COVID app, where we were the company that took that from trials into full-scale production in 12 weeks and obviously helped save lives. And then also, say the Nespresso machine. I don't know if anyone else is a fellow coffee drinker, but the Ericino machine. So we actually have our legacy in mechanical engineering. And so we took some of the technology from medical to grade equipment and designed that prototype for Nespresso.
Nice.
So we're also a company that's quite comfortable in transformation ourselves, starting from our roots in mechanical engineering, then moving through to software engineering. And now we really help, we're on a mission to be a transformation partner and a sustainable transformation partner for our clients. And that's looking at all things from data, cloud, but most importantly, what Lee and I are very passionate about is customer experience.
Yes.
And so I head up a consulting team, a business consulting team in the UK, and we're very, very passionate about working with our clients on building the right thing before building it right.
Okay. I hear you. Lee, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure here. As Melanie described, we share the passion really for customer centricity, customer experience. So my name's Lee. I am a business consultant in Zühlke, and with about 20 years experience in delivering, discovering and delivering user-centered, customer-centered products and systems, particularly working with large delivery engineering teams to bring business, technology, and customer centricity altogether. The passion is really, I'm passionate about technology, really, that is transform the world, changing how we do things. There's a bit geeky side of me. But I think I have the same approach Mel would agree is we put the human at the heart of it.
Is that your secret sauce?
Yeah.
Every SI's got their secret sauce, right?
That is a good way to put it into it. I think, when it boils down, really is what brings human together to do the good thing with technology. That is really how you empathize and taking a human-centered approach.
We say technology is the easy bit. It's people that are the hard
That's the hard bit.
Absolutely.
I'm going to steal your question, I think.
Go for it. Yeah.
So you talk about customer. First of all, welcome. And you talk about customer centricity, a lot, customer experience. What is true customer centricity then? How do you define this?
Very, very good question. And it's quite broad. And for us, it's really more human-centric, or putting people at the heart of everything. Because, for example, we work across lots of different industries. So for health, it could be patient care, it could be clinicians, it could be, surgeons and those sorts of teams. For banking and financial services, it could be colleagues, it could be the actual customers. So I think it's quite a big catch-all phrase, but actually, whether it's internal or external, it's really about understanding who the audience is that you're trying to build for, and then make sure you put yourself into the shoes. And it's also about having empathy and an understanding of what is going to be a good service or a solution for them.
Yeah, I think that, as you described, is really the heart of putting human right in the center of everything. And on the different types of humans, as in new projects, the stakeholders, the customers, the employees, and the regulator and parties. So when we're looking into that, in the human categories, there are all different type of stakeholder, how to bring them all together with different needs and to deliver something benefit for everyone. I think that's what we're really focusing. it's easy to say than done, and that's why there's so many kind of misconceptions about customer centricity, which we often come across at projects. We have to keep demonstrating what is the right way to do it, and how to deliver value earlier.
There's two things I'm seeing, right? So on one hand, I'm seeing more companies trying to weave customer centricity into like the everyday. You can like think back to like when you had digital only teams, and then people started to kind of integrate it into like but then I find that people are stepping away from customer centricity as a topic. I don't know if that's something that you're seeing on your side as well, and it's just anecdotal. It's just me, observation, not me observing, like But what are you seeing on your side?
I totally agree with you, and I think customer centricity has been misused in so many ways, interpreted in the business world, and sometimes can become just a bit buzzword, a wishy-washy thing, right? That's is related to really the misconceptions we kind of come across in projects. So, for example, the typical one is customer centricity as a PR statement. Or that
they just employ the approaches, but they don't really want to make the change, like the real.
Exactly. It's like invest in large campaigns to shout about, but that is not really tied into any business strategy or any measures. So it doesn't bring any value realization, right? That is very costly. And second one is when talking about customer centricity, it's not really focused on real customer needs. It's just to try to answer whatever customer wants. But in terms of you're diluting your effort, really focus on the right thing. So there's one example. I wouldn't name the customer, but it's we once worked with a large logistics company in the UK. We were supporting, communicating the green message as part of the sustainability strategy to the market cross channels, engage with customers. At that time, the idea came up with shouting about being the greenest company in the market. And that was easy, right? That you can just put everywhere. However, we've actually had to flag to the business, say, wait a minute, based on our research at the moment now, there's a customer actually really skeptical about greenwash. That's first. They wouldn't believe such a thing said. There's so many bad examples out there. Second one is they want to see evidence, that's real data to back this up. Third one is they also want the data to be able to translate it in a format they actually can understand. For example, if you're telling me my company's per trip is producing this much carbon emission, what does that actually mean? So their example, if you say, if you choose this path of kind of logistic service, you would be able to reduce carbon emission by 20%, equals save 0.43. That makes sense, right? So we actually flag that to business. That somehow brings the conversation, open the conversation to legal, to marketing, to data team, and to sustainability team, to be able to work out actually roadmap in terms, what kind of business organization needs to change to be able to provide a meaningful message to customers. So I believe that's where we do things slightly differently. And we always try to challenge, get a bit deeper. I don't know.
I like what you're saying, because I like, just one comment on that, and then back to you, Melanie. For me, customer centricity is, for an organization, is a being of, like a state of being, right? It's not only about the insights. We have a team of that we create customer insights, or it goes back to marketing, right? It goes from marketing to sales to product development to customer service. So, and it's a systematic approach on how they serve the customers, how they put the customers at the heart. Exactly what you said. And it's not for one team, it's across the organization.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's kind of the glue that brings everybody together. And it is very, very multifaceted and multi-dimensional. And it's when you have everybody understanding that, and also understanding what goal you're trying to achieve, then you also get, by default, high-performing teams, and teams that, really importantly, have fun, feel motivated, feel engaged. And that's sort of the secret sauce when it comes to that.
But what do you say to people that go, It takes a long time to actually realize any value. Because I actually think companies have got to be really brave, right? It seems counterintuitive as well, right? If I say to you, I want that every time you call the call center, every time you actually rock up in the store, every time you visit a site or whatever, it is the best experience for customers, right? It means they got to put down armies of people, or armies of tech, or armies of conversational AI and chat and all these types of things, and it's a call center, right? What do you say to those people? In terms of, is there a way to frame it as a journey from going from a call center to a profit center? What is the conversation that you can have on a broader board level to frame it as something that will eventually end up as a value and profit conversation?
So you mean how you can connect it to the broader business outcomes? This is what you're saying?
Yeah, and we discussed this a lot in other podcasts as well, but I still feel that bit is
missing,
elusive, yeah.
Or challenging, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. And I think sometimes it's about expectations setting, because there's often a tendency for those conversations to say, we're going to change the way that everything operates, and as a result, we're going to deliver X, and we're going to do it by tomorrow. Yeah. Actually, that's unrealistic, and it's setting everybody really up to fail. So there is that balance. We sort of have been coining that phrase around using it as a value detector, or understanding where there could
truffle pigs.
Yeah, truffle pigs, exactly. So use it to truffle, or locate where some of these opportunities are. Yeah. But the key is really to start small and to find out and identify, okay, what is one particular process or one particular area which is struggling. It doesn't take a lot. Often I'm amazed that you have board level conversations and you say, for example, we go in and speak to a retail bank and we'll say, have you looked at your App Store ratings? And they have no idea. They're like, realize it's like 1.7, and they're like, oh, because they often are also so disconnected. So another thing that we do, and I don't want to hog the mic, but I'll hand over to Lee. So some of the other things that we can do around that is we do a bit of surreptitious sort of research. So whether it's internally, we go and check, what's happening on socials, what people are saying, and actually we can present this as evidence and say, this is what we see. This is evidence. This is what your brand is, the positioning is in the marketplace.
And you frame it as a risk. So what you're saying is, this is this. And you're giving them a sense of urgency. This is where you need to act. Okay.
Yeah. Based on this is your competitors and this is you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. I think you mentioned the sense of the urgency. That's really the key word, because often that also is the value. Sometimes we go in as partners as with fresher pair of eyes, is to be able to looking at things in a day-to-day business as expert in the business cannot see, and where we can bring that level of reality. So we often find out is there's a level of understanding is I believe this is how my business should be running, and actually is running. And when we actually really get the evidence from different stakeholders, from different customers, that really shows another level of reality that might have lost when things organic growth. We call it kind of sometimes because of knowledge by being an expert. So it brings that value to really brings okay, where the really true problem is, looking at whole experience and where the problem challenges are. And you mentioned is how if we ever communicate, you mentioned about the kind of board level, right? I think Melanie talk a lot about is some of the customer centricity topics don't really get to the board level, or doesn't really carry good conversation. That's normally others. The evidence might be strong, but it's not linking to any business value. So that is what we're looking at is, okay, if there is a problem about customer experience, what does that actually mean to operation? How much time it costs employee to spend? How many employees needs to solve that problem? And what is impact? And then you're looking at on customer satisfaction, NPS, those score, and have impact on those, what that would be. So most of the conversation, customer centricity, fail to translate that into financial performance, and to be able to kind of show the numbers, I would say.
And then to share something with you. Do you know? Have I ever shared with you like what? The way how you work, the bit about the way how you work that is most impressive to me, because obviously you're a partner of ours, and
your hidden card for today. I think
it got to be a little bit of curry in the sauce. So just 3 things. All right, I think that the way how you blend like the 2 worlds, like data and customer experience, I think I really like it. Right, I wish we could go as far as you could. Right, 2. I like the way, this is truffle pigs again, but I like how you use, various tools to identify value, identify opportunities to optimize and, transform. I really like the way how you do that. And the 3rd one, I like how you structure problems. You got all these different groups of people, and you kind of take them on a journey, don't you? Right?
Absolutely.
And I wonder if we could get into any of those things just a little bit, because so yes, your secret sauce for you might be, customer experience, blending it, how you, help customers through change. But to me, and don't beat me up, but I think that those 3 things to me are your real secret sauce.
I will agree with that as well.
Yeah,
I will agree with that, right? Because you gave me so much food for thought as well, in terms of we'll touch on the transformation is a big extensive thing a little bit later, I think. I was thinking, I had it on my notes, but again on how you link the metrics that you said to actually to business goals, right? Business outcomes. That's what you do very well.
In a way that you're not getting into the weeds. You're still framing it like big enough, chunky enough that you've got the ambition. You get people excited by the whole thing. So I want us to step into that just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? Yeah. Well, let's start with a challenge first, because we talk about truffle pigs. We talk about helping customers to find, where to optimize, where to value lies. I would argue, though, if I think about some of the more recent customers that I've been at, I'm not sure that you could use a customer-centric approach for this. Let me paint a picture to you. So I'm up north. I in a factory, guys. Yeah, and the conversation is, door assemblies and warranties and OEMs and all that kind of stuff, right? And everybody goes, hey, if we had the data, it'd be so good. We could do A, B, C, D, and we got a whole backlog of different things that we would do, different use cases. And I thought to myself, you know what they need? They need a partner that could, let's camp up with them, help them find all the little nuggets, all the little truffles. But I'm not sure that using like a life cycle diagram or a kind of experience map or something that would be the way that you would tackle it in that sense. How would you handle something like that? Just thinking.
It's a really great, and it's great to hear that. And the way that we would go about it is very different. And I think we touched upon this earlier, that in some cases CX can be a dirty word. And so a lot of particularly in our role in consultants, and surely you can add as well to this afterwards, is also about matching the language to that of our clients. So if they're talking about customer centricity, I mean, I had a meeting with a potential meeting a few weeks ago with a new client, and she talked about, I said the reason I get up my raison d'etre was to really provide amazing customer experience and make sure that the customers were at the heart of everything that we did. And she beamed and she said, that's what I do. And, immediately we had a sort of a connection. That's very unusual, I would say, in the conversations that we have. And so you need to be framing it in a way that it is driving business value, or it's creating, or it's being the truffle pig and finding these opportunities. And sometimes it's not the end customer. sometimes it's, if it's in a call center or if it's in a production environment, it's like, how can you make the colleague or the manufacturer's life easier, more efficient, that they like what they're doing more, that they can. And so really some of it is just about how you frame, going back to how you say about framing the problem. And also at the board level, you'd be surprised how many times they're just so disconnected and disjointed. And so by structuring the conversation, and it's not to do with customer centricity, it's not about a life cycle map, it's not about anything, but it's about getting them to share in that room, what's the 3 things that are keeping you up at night, or what's the top thing that's keeping you up at night, getting them to share that, and then facilitating the conversation so that they understand what everyone else is feeling and how that all interplays.
You're still using the working backwards from your persona, which is actually your stakeholder in this instance, and identify their pain points, their touch points, their interactions, right, and make sense, and what makes sense for them, what their needs, and where is the opportunity. We were just discussing before, right, the first most important actually customer is your internal employees or the internal teams. So this is what you are doing, very well. Put them as the most important person in the room. You used empathy as a word before, so empathy and listen. I'll take this too. Yeah,
definitely.
So it's a form of you still, instead of life cycle mapping for customers, it's like operational pain point mapping is another way that you would maybe tackle the same thing. Okay.
Talking about customer centricity, although we're very passionate about it, I do believe there shouldn't be customer centricity for the sake of customer centricity, right?
Yeah, okay.
It's a means to the goal. So, for example, so that means customer centricity carries out different meaning or different level of focus in different business environments. When you're doing end customer facing projects or doing internal project or like doing industry, they'll have different meaning. The wording is different and the goal is different. But I think the key thing is, as a mindset, customer centricity brings a common purpose to everyone in the business. Is in the daily business, would it be this department will do different from that department, so we're zooming into their own. But customer centricity is have a way to unify everybody. Look at it. We actually together as a service provider, we have the same customers, and we're sharing the risks and the problems, and unify together to solve the problem for them, to create a seamless experience. So I think that is a really powerful way of bring so many stakeholders together, especially now have technology data coming around that can be quite abstract to very detailed level. Some just may not be tech savvy or not data savvy, but have the customer experience layer on top. Everybody starts talking about human language. Then you can use that to translate, to bring everyone together.
When you look at customer impact outcomes, because basically every team in any organization, they may have different metrics or different definitions on how that customer experience translates into like a point, right, or a metric. But at the end of the day, what is their ambition? Customer loyalty, right? Brand loyalty, cost reductions, revenue growth, I guess. But that's the idea. If you get that customer loyalty, what it means repeat purchases, it means advocacy for your brand,
Exactly.
right? Referrals to others, more sales than revenue. And then I guess from a cost perspective, I think you said before about the call center and contact center. It used to be a cost-saving entity domain. I think it can become, and I think we will touch on this a little bit later, an engine for growth.
Because so you shift it to being a profit center.
Definitely, because it goes. Think about your agents, right? Apart from the frontline teams and sellers, they're the ones that they have that direct interaction with the customers. And it goes back to what you said: listen to your customers, get their insights, put them back to product development or to your marketing or to your campaigns, or to actually link this back to the organizational strategy, right?
Absolutely. Even like say, sorry, I'm going to be further.
No. This is a conversation. Okay.
Even like this, for sometimes when you're doing like internal projects, you soon forget, this is not about customer centricity because it's all about internal employees. But I have been in projects that just narrowly just focus on internal employees. You start building state of art, almost like how can we make this team more efficient, operation more efficient? That's great because you do want to improve the efficiency. But without the customer layer, you might forget, you might not noticing some of the things you've been working on to reduce the cost might be harming the interaction with customers. For example, imagine, right? This is extreme. I wanted to cut down expense on customer engagement. I want to change everything into automation. However, without realizing certain touch points are very meaningful to customers.
Yeah.
That's not shouldn't be replaced by automation. So without having that two view outside and inside view together,
Yes.
you can, for one purpose, you increase efficiency, but then you're also reducing loyalty and the revenue overall, right? It's damaging the company's, sustainability or profitability.
I think that's going to be increasingly important as we start to really get into the crux of like a kind of broader AI transformation, right? I think it presents, and some people will beat me up for this, but I think it presents a genuine change that you could make in the ways people work. So, like if you think about to like, digital transformation, sometimes you were just making the thing digital, right? And nobody wanted to say that because we were on your side back then, right?
Yeah.
But I think you got like a real unique opportunity to say, hey, you know what? You used to do steps 1, 2, and 3, but you really only got to do steps 2, right? And then you could maybe focus on a fourth thing that you could be doing that you weren't doing before.
Yeah.
So you really like that point.
Yeah.
But then, so you've gone in, you've solved, you got your buyer, right? And he or she might not necessarily be the most influential. They might not be in the C-suite, for example, right? They might be the head of or the SVP of or whatever. And you've delivered that piece of work, you've delivered some value. How are you then helping that person to grow their impact, grow the influence in such a way that other parts of the business now could become, start the momentum going, create the envy? How are you doing that with the things that you...
I think it ties back to your point earlier about metrics or being able to measure. So every project that we do, we will always make sure that we have a list of sort of KPIs or metrics, and all of them tied to whatever is very strategically important for that client, whether it is, I don't know, improved data accuracy, or if it is an increased NPS score, or it is shaving X off a bottom line and being a lot more streamlined and efficient. So because of the way that we do tend to start small and show value early and then iterate on that, we're very quickly able to demonstrate the business value via the stakeholders to coin a term, create envy.
Yeah, that's a key one.
So that's really the most effective way that I've found is we make our client look good, but it's based on evidence and actual metrics and something that is meaningful and has purpose to that client.
I remember when I was on your side, we do this thing called sequencing, where we would go and we would like, let's take this case presented in this way to this first stakeholder because they've got a very similar challenge to you. They got a bit more visibility, and they do like demos at town halls, right? So you've got like a way to kind of demonstrate the thing, and then that opens up a bit more opportunities for you. Is that like, I don't want you to spill out your secret sauce, you see? So, but is that along the lines of...
Yeah, I would call it more secret sauce. Is the belief, I would say, that it's really to really empower, certain stakeholders are passionate about making change, and they do really know the business value of that. Sometimes we'll just help them to better articulate and reveal and build a business case. But first, as Mel mentioned, it's really qualify if this actually does deliver business value, solving the real problems. Yeah. If that's so, and we actually work as a partner to empower our stakeholder to be able to communicate the value. And for example, it reminds me of one of the projects I was in is a project in pharma. We're working on building a new system to replace the legacy systems, and the whole team had quite very tech focused, and they never heard of design, not like any work related to customer experience was not taken care of internally. They feel that's kind of nice to have, but the user groups really wanted to get engaged. They were not. So when we spotted this is a missing part of it, and they really instead of we going to do the shiny piece of work, it's better to empower them. So as you mentioned, we actually bring the whole user group into the whole product development cycle from the right beginning. Workshop, design the solution, we design with them and they deliver them, and also we also use the channel, the change management channel, such like a newsletters, like town halls, to actually explain, working with internal stakeholders, explaining what is the agile delivery, what is the user-centered design, and what is the data-driven approach. So gradually, you starting have a group of kind of like advocates working around and really working together to drive organization change. Yeah. So one of the things I always find it very rewarding is after working projects, sometimes it could be months or a year, you having co-colleagues from the client side say, well, thank you so much. We've learned so much from you or from the team. I think that's a moment to really demonstrate value is we did the work together, also transfer the knowledge to the organization. They will carry on with the change.
There's also a different way that I think contributes a bit to our secret sauce as well. So we're also not afraid to challenge our clients if we think that they're doing the wrong thing. Right. So the HSBC example where we jointly won an award with HSBC for the design is a really good example of that. Yeah. So the Innovation in Banking Award that we won with them last year, and they were very business focused and they wanted to lift and shift a journey. So they had a successful journey in Asia and they said, okay, well, we want to encourage people to invest in the UK. So we don't have the skills to be able to do this, but please just take this journey and implement it. And we quickly said, well, that's not the right approach. Right. Because investment isn't the same in Asia, in Hong Kong and in Singapore as it is here. And we turned around within the first couple of weeks a very comprehensive user research strategy where it showed the attitude to investment in the UK. People thought it was like gambling. They didn't feel like they were wealthy enough to invest, that investment was only for the super high net worth individuals. And we set them off on a completely new path, which has been very commercially successful. It's taken them to number one in terms of investment journeys and et cetera, et cetera. So in some cases, it's not about just doing what our clients say they think they need. It's about challenging that and helping them to deliver outcomes like that.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I'm going to link this back to true customer centricity because it's all about the customer complexity, right? In terms of the geos, the segments of the markets, and how you can unpack all of this and make it work for where you are, the use case, the business use case that you're working on. Yeah,
I mean, it's actually quite a revelation. It was quite a revelation to me over the last few years, my time at Zühlke. So when we're working with test and trace, the average age literacy across the UK is 12. I think average financial literacy in the UK is 14. And so it's some of these things that if you're trying to design a service that's going to be widely accessible and broadly appealing, it's that sort of thing that you need to understand and also marry those messages and the content in particular is really critical to this. So yes, you've got to make sure that it's regulatory compliant and it's legal, et cetera, but it's a real skill and an art to then make sure that that's in a way that your customers are going to be able to understand and interact and engage with.
That's actually, this playing devil's advocate here, but it's a slight disadvantage though to this approach. And if you think about it, you are as good or as advanced as the people that you're trying to serve. So if you're the BBC, you're a public service broadcaster, you're serving everyone, you're serving like Susie Q, Granny, right? And you're serving Karen, teeny bopper, right? And Karen is looking for like TikTok flow and content, boy, right? Yeah. And Susie Q is like, I don't even know what the back button look like, right? And you gotta go with Susie Q, right? You gotta present it in a way that everyone can actually use it. You've got to put the word back on there. until Susie Q and others like her feel comfortable with just like a less than sign.
Yeah.
That's the reality, right?
Absolutely.
So again, for the, you know, the detractors of the approach, you know, they're thinking, hang on, you know, we can just whittle it down, serve a specific audience, not care about the underserves, and then make some profits with this batch, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's, you know, is a delicate balance.
You're absolutely right. And going back to the HSBC example, they had a specific target, like demographic of people, which were mobile first users, and those that had after balance after bills was £50. And so you had much more of a parameter in which to work within those constraints, but equally getting them to a point where they didn't think they were gambling or that investment wasn't for them. And so it was, very much working within those constraints. But it's an absolute valid point, and I applaud the BBC in particular. I think they've got a very hard job.
Yeah.
Some of my old colleagues would be like, what is he saying about us?
So you mentioned just really about it's the inclusion part of it, right? To address the diverse needs, right? I think you can't please everyone, that is for sure.
Yeah.
That's every business that has to focus on certain segments at a time. But I think even within the segments, there's still so many diverse needs. I think that's why in what we do actually, such as like accessibility, digital inclusion is a big focus for us as well. As you mentioned, is sometimes you can only focus on one, or sometimes maybe you have to create a tiered support on a different level.
That's
right?
a good point, Lee. Yeah, that's a good point.
So we actually, this reminds me. So one of the projects we support with a co-op is we supported co-op sustainability, a project with the partnership with RSPB, Worldwide Life, and the National Trust, and building this nature neighborhoods project for empower urban citizens to live in better, more sustainable life, building thriving communities. So this is where we actually brought into how can we use digital technology to broaden the outreach of the community. When you tap into community, it's very challenging, right?
Yeah.
It's nationwide. Yeah. You have a very high level of maturity. People start playing with AI, want to test in all this kind of dynamic survey. Yeah. Then you have certain area that is still struggling to set up website. So what do we do? So as Zühlke is, what we do is, this is where we realize this is not about how much you apply technology, how advanced you is, what is the adoption. So we actually made up is what is the tier support based on different level, what kind of support should empower the different area to increase the digital maturity. Yeah. Other is on supporting in-person interaction if the area is more focusing on that, or certain areas they're more advanced, they want to do different things, but also advising them on the data privacy and security side of things. So as you mentioned, it's easier to do one size for all, and that will normally don't work very well. But then it's the gray area is the most challenging, right? As Mel mentioned, is take this courage to really flag the issue and to get into the nitty-gritty, find a new way of doing it.
Yeah. I will add to your 3 points about what you like about them. That are very cool, very inspiring projects, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the projects. I remember that from the first time we met you guys. I was like, this is so cool. This is so cool, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason we love to work where we are is that we do have a commitment to sustainability and leaving a positive legacy on people and planet. So we are very committed to that, and so there are things that we won't work on as an organization. And we're very much even every project that we work on now, we have an impact assessment. Which also looks at, it's in line with the ESG goals. Well, the Worldwide Sustainability Goals. Okay. And so looking at the impact around on all those different 20 categories, what impact has that project made?
Oh, yeah.
I want to change gears just to peer into the future a bit, to see how you saw transformation changing. Let's say you had let's say a key stakeholder, you're advising them, you're telling them, you're trying to help inform their next 12 to 24 months. What is your thinking? What are you telling them? How should they package transformation projects? How should they think about it?
And I wanted to, this is where I wanted to take us as well. And I wanted to add, because when you did the introduction, Melanie, you said digital transformation, but also you said sustainable transformation. So I want to use that too.
Sustainable transformation, I think, is key. And transformation, I think, is everyone's core business these days. Transformation isn't, I think where there's a bit of a misconception is you have a start of a transformation process and you'll have an end of a transformation process, and you have all these points
once
in
in a
between.
lifetime.
But actually, I think with all businesses, and I reference this with Zühlke as well, where we continuously are ongoing and transforming the way that we're doing things. And I'd argue, I mean, this might be inflammatory, but I'd argue that in all businesses are going to have to continue to transform to stay relevant.
Let's double kind of. So, okay. So you don't mean like big pieces of work. You mean like, you're talking about like right size packages of work, not too small, not too big. Yeah?
Yeah, quite.
But it does sound as though like you're saying continuous transformation.
Because I think you're never going to get to, there's no end journey.
Right.
That's what I mean. So, when I think, when we're talking about sustainable transformation, it needs to be done in a way that is people-centric. It brings people along to the journey, but it does deliver business value. But equally, it's almost like an agile project where it's, you're continuously looking in and checking in and going, okay, this is how far we've come, but this is, where are we still going in the right place? So we're on the boat. Are we still going to that island, or are we going to that island? It's interesting because we've been having some conversations about digital strategy with some clients recently, and we're saying actually having a digital strategy that's 5 or 10 years in duration is just insanity. Actually, what you should be looking at is no more than 18 months, 2 years out, because with the rate of change, with the rate of technology adoption, with the rate of just customers and how they're changing and behavior is changing, anything more than 18 months or 2 years, it's just, it's madness.
I'm so happy you're saying that. Because you're making me uncomfortable. We have this conversation just before, and his reaction is, it's my favorite.
So because when you say continuous transformation, so many things come to mind. One, are we talking flex resource? Like, what are the people who are like, they got into the job, they're part of BAU. When you're continuously transforming, are you continuously transforming with a separate set of resources? One. Two, does that mean that the way you allocate funds changes? Is it a different way you're allocating funds? Is it not yearly? Is it, all sorts of questions come to mind, I just think it sounds exhausting.
Transformation.
Continuous transformation sounds exhausting.
I think if it's done right, it won't even feel like it's transformation. It'll feel like it's business as usual.
Right. Okay.
It's increasing agility, right?
Let's repeat that. It's going to be business as usual. Because I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. One more comment and going back to Julie. Because we called it digital transformation 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever. Now, recently we call it AI transformation or generative AI transformation. Or in a while, we're going to call it, pretty sure in a year or two, quantum transformation. It's happening, it's coming. It's a transformation. And you want to do it because nothing is static. Yes, thank you. And because it's not only for the not successful organizations and we need to transform ourselves to become more successful. No, you need to go because you need to adapt to the customer expectations, the customer needs, but also to the change in market dynamics. I love that you are making you affordable.
But, okay, does it risk though? Do you risk making something that is meant to deliver a material change mundane and ordinary and not exciting? Do you because there's goodness in structuring it like a thing and giving it a name, because you can start out the year, get people energized, still, it all phases out within 3-4 months, but at least you get a thing done, and some value, you measure it, you do it again.
I think it's really about change, right? We're talking about really, just I mentioned, adapting to change. So you go through, you're looking at all the different buzzwords of, transformation is really talking about is the need for the ability to be able to quickly adapt to change, especially the speed of change from AI, compared to what we had before. Some companies still starting digital transformation. Now it's AI is coming, right? So it's really about the world will go faster, the change will go faster, is how quickly you can adapt to it. So for example, we working with clients, working with customers, is they might take, a month, year and a half to have one, like as innovation, one idea to launch, to get to the market. That is really long, because by the time you year and a half ago come up with an idea, year and a later, if you imagine that's just before AI, that's
fair.
a different thing, right?
That's
But
fair.
however, one of the things is really to increasing business agility. So for example, the project we're working on, normally when we come out of it, we deliver a system, a product, you will see a big increase on the lead time to market.
Three things here. What you said, it's about the length. I don't think 18 months. I think 18 weeks is a lot now. So you need to show something tangible, and I want to link it to what we discussed before about what is the opportunity there, the most important opportunity. So you have the means, the tools actually to identify that and show something tangible. You can continue doing what is successful or what works well. I'm not calling it successful, right? But also, with all these new technologies that are coming in so often, how you can have this harmony. If we take your example before about contact center, what is the harmony of incorporate something of generative AI into your contact center? We can call it contact center transformation, but you just need to evolve, right? Because you need to serve your customers, you need to cut the costs down, and also you need the buy-in you need to link it back to the board level goals and outcomes. So that's a mindset thing. It's not a technology. Technology is crucial for the change and the transformation, but it's not the sole driver. People and processes. And when you make it part of the entire organization, when you actually enable the frontline agents, right, the contact center agents, with the knowledge that transformation is what is happening, you can call it change, that's a very different dialogue and conversation that you have.
And it just reminded me, actually, I have a piece of paper written on my desk describing what I'm saying is, it's not technology transform business, it's the people transform business. So I think you just kind of summarized very well in terms, what does that transformation mean? Because people always think of transformation from A to B, right? But sometimes the speed is when you're starting at A, B might already changed. So how you adapt to that.
So does it change then? So like, what is going to be different if you're doing these, as you said, these right-sized packages of Word are constantly transforming? Okay, fine, not convinced, but fine. Then is there a risk then that you've got different parts of the business doing like competing things or things that might negatively impact on the other? So is there a person that's kind of like, or at least who knows that, that these two things are connected, one? And then it sounds like you're implying though that the work is being done in-house, I think. So then what's your role? What's the role of an SI in this instance? Or maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe
I see where you're going with this.
Maybe I got that wrong.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Have I got that wrong? Maybe.
No, I don't think you've got. I mean, I think there's a role for us. I don't necessarily see Zühlke as someone that's going to come in and transform and continuously to transform businesses, because actually, and it's always been my own personal mantra as well as a consultant, is to empower, uplift, educate the people that my clients are the people that I'm working with, so they can do it themselves. It's like the philosophy. They should be able to be doing this on their own. But often organizations need a helping hand, or they need, there's that not invented here, or I need that external view that comes in and often tells you the bleeding obvious, but because it's come from outside.
Well, that's your role, right? Like mobilizer, but also the glue, right? Because from the examples that you just shared, it's all about identifying what is important, getting the stakeholders with the pain points and actually enable them, challenge them, right? Make them see a bit more clearly.
Yeah.
You have the right tools when things are not going that well, but you have the right tools to make them see things differently, right? Like with the service-led design or the customer-centric design. But these are the things that I've seen you. That's the role that I can see.
Yeah,
and I think the other part to that is. I think it needs to be at the board going down. So again, a lot of the work that needs to be done is to make sure that there aren't those silos. I mean, there is a company that we're working with at the moment who are embarking on an AI transformation. Their internal IT team have been tasked with coming up with AI products to help the efficiency of the business. And they came to us because they're saying, well, we've got all these great ideas and we've come up with some concepts that could save, priority ones from happening, like accurately predict them and prevent them so that they don't happen. And people aren't using them. So what's going wrong? And it's actually because they're not applying customer centricity or a product mindset. They're sat there one step removed and going, we think this is a great idea. We want to transform. We need to use this new technology, but they're not looking at that from from that the holistic way.
Yeah.
So tell me if because I want to make sure that I understand. So what you're saying is and I'm slow today. So you got continuous transformation. The role
it's sustainable. I like the way that Hara was saying sustainable, because it has to be sustainable. It has to be sustainable for the business. Has to be sustainable for the people.
And it's sustainable because the role that you play as a partner will be to teach a customer how to fish in a new way. So you're there for time. They've now got that embedded skills. They've adopted that new way of working, right? And I suppose, keep me honest, that when you've got maybe competing pieces of work, you might act as an interlock. So you facilitate the conversation between those different teams. So even if there's not a person that is a portfolio owner of different things, you are helping to, at least at a ground level, helping them to
connect the dots or connect the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why I'm asking that. It is a useful thing, piece of the puzzle for me. A lot of the time, you're not going in at a C-suite. Your buyer isn't at the C-suite level. So I always think, okay, if it was still on your side, and I go in and my buyers, whatever, I've got to work my way up and work my way across, but I still want to make an impact. Yeah. So I had to kind of make that connection in my mind in terms of what's new, what changes.
Yeah.
And we answered the question in terms of how you can make your buyer, your main stakeholder, right, actually get that, give them more influence to go to the way up.
Yeah.
It's part of the business case, because actually a lot of what we do is help them craft the business case and a story that they can use upwards and downwards across the business to really get buy-in or to socialize the impact of the work that we've done.
And I guess from the sustainable transformation, I like, because they're not two hosts anymore. They're like, because if you get that visibility across the board, across the organization about this is the way we operate. Think about CMO now. Their role has changed lately, right? Recently. And I see them very often to work with the CFO and the CEO. And if you think about the executive briefing center that we have, our customers have changed in terms of CTOs, CIOs, and we have more CMOs, CFOs or CEOs coming in, because actually they do want more in terms of how they can serve their customers, how they can serve their employees. These are the questions that I've seen more often the last 6 months, 7 months.
I see what you mean. I see where you're going with it as well. So what you're saying is, and keep me honest here, you're saying, so this change is happening, sustainable transformation is happening. There's more opportunities to partner across our organizations. There's more opportunities for you to be like a unifying force. So if you're a CIO or CEO or CM or whoever, you could be that interlock as well. So you interlock at this level, and you've got partners like Zühlke interlocking that.
Yeah, and think about the metrics, right? Because if you think about the metrics, last point, I promise, like NPS, CSAT, these were the metrics of a specific team. But if we think about the customer centricity that goes across all the departments, across all the different teams of an organization, get first call resolution or waiting times from the contact center, if you all translate these metrics to a customer experience KPI metric, this goes back to your business strategy, to your business outcomes, right? To the business impact. So that's where the power sits to make that change. Serve your customers, get the customer loyalty, brand loyalty, and the rest is revenue increase, cost reduction. I'm not going to go with that, but
It's a really good point, Hara. But I would say as well that the other reason that you need all those people to be more aligned is that often what ends up happening from a tech point of view is tech debt and legacy architecture and legacy infrastructure and things that, you've got so many of our clients that we're working with, I call it, they've got Victorian plumbing,
I like that.
and yet they're trying to build a multi-story building on top of it, and it's crumbling. And so when you've got your marketing department or your product department saying, you need to deliver this, and they're saying, well, I physically can't because of X, Y, and Z. So this is where we do a really great job in helping to balance all that out, because we can come with so many, like a multidisciplinary or cross-functional team and say, we can pull the lever here, but there's actually going to be, some changes on the seesaw that's going to go that way. And then really so when you're making those informed decisions and how you get to your strategy, it's about how to get, and this fits more into the sustainable. So it's sustainable for the whole business, not just, okay, your NPS has gone up by 100, but now your tech team are like working 24 hours a day because I can't deliver.
I like that. It's kind of really around, right? It's like customer centricity as the shared goal. However, really looking into cross-functional, what the trade-offs, what the challenges. You have to really craft a sweet spot almost for all stakeholders that will make the next transformation change. I like Mel talk about this, the Victoria plumbing, and also I think that's what we do very well. I often heard is we often untangle the spaghetti, right? It's things all twined together, and how do we? It's very easy to go in and say, let's start fresh. We have seen some approach like that, right? However, we believe that is every business has legacy. Although you have technical data, you have a legacy data. However, the business has taken so long to evolve. There were some there were essential parts. If we manage to untangle some of the things, we can unlock the value and move forward.
And you know what this gives me as well? The point about the knowledge capital of the teams, but also when the partners coming in. I remember my old days as well. I knew more about the processes, the people, the technology than actually the customers that I was working for, helping for. And I think what you talk, Melanie, about this technical debt, but also how you enable the internal teams. This helps actually with employee retention. You'll see where I'm going, because the people that they go away with institutional knowledge, right? The capital knowledge. In order to build this, in order to understand the processes, what works well, what has changed, they take this away with them. So you're actually an employee retention linked with customer centricity, right? Your first customers are your employees.
Absolutely.
At least that's
yes, I agree.
I like this. I think there's a common theme across everything you're saying there, right? There's what the characteristics of a good strategic partner, right? So you got that cloud to ground thinking, right? That's how you kind of unravel the spaghetti, right? So I really like the way you framed it, but again, it goes back to the same problem structuring thing that I admire about the way you work. You know what? I was thinking the other day, right? If you could be working in professional services for all your career, and you untangle a lot of spaghetti, right? And you don't get
It's lots of spaghetti.
no one knows the work you do. It might not be publicly referenceable or whatever. And there's no awards. Can't get an Oscar or Emmy, right?
We
Right?
could create one.
Right? You could, right?
We need one, yeah.
So I think I like having these conversations because at least for the little bit that we can talk about, you get to kind of show a little bit of your secret sauce, ninja skills without calling too many customer names.
Yeah, I think it's great to share that. It's this kind of conversation really brings what you truly believe, and also to take you back to the moment and find out I'm the only person that experienced that, right? And that's the moment you feel you're not alone, or you have actually there are many consultants or even employees or trying to achieve the same goal.
And we're not all evil.
I like that because you know what I was thinking that you were saying this now.
Yeah.
We are all customers in some.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah.
And we are very vocal about the things that we are dissatisfied about, the things that don't work, they don't go well, they don't go as per plan. But we're not very vocal about the successes and all the small things that can lead to a big success.
Yeah.
Because that change doesn't come and happen overnight.
Yeah.
But there is some sustainable, consistent thing that happens to get you there.
Yeah.
And we're not very good at saying these stories.
Yeah.
Or, as you said, most of the stories are secret.
You can't, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
There's
just
so
can't.
many we can't
Yeah,
say.
exactly right, yeah.
But all the bad stories are there. All the bad stories are
Yeah.
there because
Those are
you
right.
can find them everywhere. Just click them there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So
agree.
I know we got to close. I wanna challenge you. I wanna give you a challenging close. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
If you had to speak to your younger self, what advice would you give her?
Do you want to
What do you
start?
do?
Well, Hara, do you want to
Who's going on
start?
first?
I think Haro is ready.
So I'm your guest now.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
I
Go
see what you
first,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we will conveniently run out of time when it's my turn.
Well, for me, will be Dwayne to identify and expand the change agents within the organizations.
Right.
They know the pain points. They're incentivized to mobilize change.
Yeah.
You're there to listen, empower them, enable them, collaborate with them.
Okay. Lee?
For me, it would be really help business to reveal the outside in view, the true reality, how business actually is working in comparison to what is thought to be working, and starting from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A slightly different approach from Hara and Lee. I think I'm a huge empath and have a high emotional intelligence. And I think I would be telling my younger self to embrace that and to think about that as a superpower rather than to spending almost decades like trying to suppress that to fit in.
Fair, man.
You, Dwayne?
Yeah. I would probably go, I think I would tell my younger self that strategy is a thing. Because I think back then I didn't think it was a thing. And I would probably challenge myself to think about what are the actual specific ingredients to a good strategist and what's the role that we can play, which is something I kind of found out serendipitously over time.
Let's use it in the next episode.
Next episode. All right.
Great.
Thanks for your time. It was lovely. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.